Sup and Wafer here. Today got this one right here. Baldur's Gate 3 is way too good apparently. Let's react to it.
What's up everybody? This is the Dark Urges man here.
Sup, man?
And today I want to take you down by the river. Larian Studios has lit the internet on fire with their latest dating simulator, one that gives Super Seducer a run for its money. By all accounts, Baldur's Gate 3 is a slam dunk success, and it's now the highest rated PC game on Metacritic ever.
It's insane.
There's a lot of games on PC. It has taken one of the
did it hit 1 million population on Steam? Like, I can't remember correctly, but I thought it was.
top 10 spots for most concurrent players on Steam. On August 6th, apparently the game accounted for 28% of total player time on Steam.
Insane.
Pardon my French, but that's fucking crazy. As far as I've played, Baldur's Gate 3 has been an incredible game, and it is very refreshing.
Squirrel might be the single most adorable creature you can recall in all your stunted memory.
Oh,
It would be ever so
How
tweedy
cute.
if it were climbing
And sweet.
a tree.
twee?
Tweet? What the heck?
Do you always take on such terrifying foes?
No studio is more deserving
Okay.
of this kind of praise than Larian, who has toiled in the mines for far too long. But we're not reviewing the game today. Instead, I want to focus on this small pocket of contrarians still holding out at Helm's Deep. I want to talk about this IGN video. Baldur's Gate 3 is causing some developers to panic.
Damn.
And the video is... it's pretty good?
By IGN?
Wait, is this IGN? Are you sure?
Yeah.
It's filled with great takes and actual insight and commentary into the game industry, and not just giving away 9 out of 10 scores to every new release.
Yeah, like
Developers
why?
should be looking at what Baldur's Gate 3 did and trying to replicate where they can, not jumping up to defend games that are cramming in practices that fans are getting fed up with.
He's right!
But there's this sentiment going around that Baldur's Gate 3 is
True.
it's just an unreasonable standard for AAA studios to meet. So we're gonna talk about that, because ladies and gentlemen, the companions in Baldur's Gate 3 are an irresistible thirst trap.
Oh. Okay. That's why
Luckily
everyone's
for
playing
me,
it.
I can resist
Yes.
their temptations and quench my thirst with Air Up, the sponsor of today's video.
Support him.
Have you ever wanted to drink plain water but have it
deserves
taste
it.
like flavored? Well, now you can. Air Up has a specially designed water bottle that flavors water through scent alone. If
I
you're
don't care
someone who
about the
doesn't
scent,
drink a
I
lot
just
of
need my
water
water.
during the day, you
The
get a bit
cooldown is nice.
dehydrated, or you're worried about artificial sweeteners and extra
Just stay
sugar,
hydrated.
this is the perfect solution for you. The pods are also super easy to activate. You can just pull up when you want flavor and push down if you want normal water. It's also great if you want
it's
to cut
good,
back
yeah.
on soda. We all crave sugar, and this is one of
think
those
my mom
really
has
cool
it.
science tricks that can help you lessen your
It's
sugar
good
intake.
for
So
your
go
health.
order your special Air Up water bottle today using the link in the description and pinned comment, and don't forget to use the code ACTMAN to get 15% off your entire purchase. And thank you Air Up for sponsoring this video.
And now for something completely different.
Different.
Ever since the days of horse armor and Oblivion,
The first microtransaction, I think it was, yeah.
parts of the video game industry have gotten progressively greedier as time goes on. It's something that a lot of gamers are getting increasingly tired of. So naturally, as Baldur's Gate 3 was about to come out, we all wondered what the catch would be. Are there gonna be any dumb microtransactions? No. There are no in-game purchases in our game. We believe in providing a complete and immersive gaming experience without the need for additional purchases. Enjoy the game to its fullest without any additional costs or microtransactions.
Oh, it should be.
This can't be right. Is this the prince who was promised? Well, the game's got to be fucking terrible then. What? We've gotten
The one who brings balance to the force.
to a point where it feels like in the AAA gaming space, like outside of Nintendo, the idea of video games being complete at release and just a one-time purchase, that idea is almost extinct. Even games that are just supposed to be single player can be completely broken at release.
insane.
Well, with ethics like this, Larian, it's no wonder some game devs don't want it to become the new standard. Nah, just keep pounding those microtransactions in. Just keep shoveling that crap in there. You know what my first reaction is when a new game comes out? Where are the slot machines? How can I gamble more money? I think the industry deserves a game like Baldur's Gate 3, and we deserve a developer like Larian. The biggest problem with microtransactions and in-game purchases is that it always affects the core gameplay. usually in a negative way. Sometimes companies end up implementing anti-player design to then charge the players to make the game better, less tedious, or more customizable. Think about how Halo Infinite took away your ability to choose your own colors in order to sell that back to you. Like try to imagine Baldur's Gate 3 as a live service game with a battle pass. Jesus Christ. Okay, well now Larian has to figure out ways to provide continuous content, so they likely come up with easily copy and pasted content and quests for new seasons. You know, how do players unlock tiers in the battle pass? How do you incentivize them to spend more money? What do you put in the battle pass to make it worth completing? On and on the questions go. You see, without a live service or a battle pass, Larian doesn't have to mold and shape the game to fit that puzzle. All they had to do was focus on making the best video game possible, and I think they've done a bang-up job. And then the other thing with in-game purchases is you now have to take content out of the game that could have been unlocked by simply playing it, and you now have to resell it, right? Another thing that really makes Larian's games stand out as RPGs is that they don't really make filler or fluff. Quests aren't handled like a checklist of chores and activities.
I love that nearly all the exams are from D4. It's insane.
To just keep you busy for no other reason. But let's go into this topic of Baldur's Gate 3 being so unbelievably good that nobody else can make a game this good ever. Please, please, please put some thought into it before you proclaim this is what AAA gaming should be moving forward. 6 years and 400 plus people with insane funding due to the IP having given BG3 a big boost. It's truly unrealistic to expect this on a regular basis. And then some guy from Larian came out of the woodwork and
but it's still something everyone should strive to be, you know?
was like, what funding?
What funding?
Just to be clear, Larian didn't receive funding from Wizards of the Coast to use the Dungeons and Dragons IP. Quite the
you need
opposite.
to pay for
they
it,
paid a licensing fee to use it. There are like standards and practices they have to follow with this IP.
It's like with Warhammer IPs.
So it's even more encumbering than just making a new game based on an IP they already own, which makes it even more impressive. Then he goes on to double down after being called out. Clearly funding wasn't the right choice of words here. Replace that with budget, knowing that an IP with the legacy of this one is going to sell.
What?
This just perplexes me. Are you talking about the Dungeons and Dragons IP? Because most people associate that with the tabletop board games. Are you talking about the Baldur's Gate IP? Because the last game I heard about Baldur's Gate was
in something like below 2010.
Alliance 2 in 2004.
2004
I reckon most
even.
people prior to this hadn't heard of Larian Studios and had never heard of Baldur's Gate before. What's also funny about this tweet and the situation in general is that people are proclaiming this isn't what AAA gaming should be. Yet another game recently came out that also had 6 years of development, a team 22 times bigger than Larian, with funding from a company that made $7.5 billion last year. And yet nobody is saying that game is...
Don't get me wrong, I still think D4 has potential, but I think it's just the same with like D3 all over again. It's pretty garbage at the beginning, it will slowly get better, and after like a year or two it will be playable, hopefully.
Is creating an unrealistic standard. Why?
Like for in-game players who are casuals, it's still a great game in my opinion.
Is that? Why is that? If you have the tools, the people, the means...
Except Season 1. Season 1 is horrendous. Eternal Realm before that was pretty fine, but after the changes to the season patch, which came out like 4 weeks ago, it was horrendous to play.
And the funding, then you should strive for greatness. I don't understand why people think otherwise. You know, what are they actually thinking? Don't let this become the new standard because we can't make games that good. I think it's pretty clear what the difference in priorities is between like Larian and Blizzard. Blizzard is like trying to make money, and Larian knows they're gonna make money if they just make a good video game. When you're at that level, you don't have to try to make money. Just make a good product. Like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplished, but I want to preemptively push back against players taking that excitement and using it to apply criticism or a raised standard to RPGs going forward.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be great if Bethesda held this standard to Fallout 76? Wouldn't that have been great? What are you trying to say? Stop complaining about AAA game developers that get away with releasing half-baked shitty games? Just accept bad trends and shitty practices amongst the industry? Why wouldn't the best rated PC game of all time not raise the standards? This is not a new baseline for RPGs. This is an anomaly. Trying to do the same thing the same way, especially without the same advantages, could kill an entire group of studios. What advantages? The advantage of talent? Hard work, foresight, uncorrupted morals? These are things Larian has and all these other studios can easily attain. Baldur's Gate 3 is not an anomaly. It didn't just spring out of the ground. This isn't Larian's first game. They've been making top-down RPGs for over 20 years. Baldur's Gate 3 is simply the culmination of all that work, of all they have learned, on an engine they've been working on for many, many years. Baldur's Gate 3 is the culmination of a series or genre in the same way that Elden Ring and Smash Bros. Ultimate were. These aren't anomalies. These are really good games made by competent studios with a clear vision that have worked tirelessly to perfect their craft. They are efficient and smart with their work, constantly building upon what they did last. Larian is super familiar with the engine used to make this game. The controls are the same as Original Sin 2. So much of the base work was already done years prior. But unlike Divinity Original Sin 2, one of the craziest advances is that apparently all of the scenes have been mocapped. Whereas in Original Sin 2, you just had to imagine what characters were doing. Again, it's a pretty funny comparison because that's the same type of storytelling Diablo 4 is doing. And then you look at Baldur's Gate 3 and it's just like, wow. Insane. But if you think about it, conceptually speaking, the older Smash Bros. Characters' movesets are pretty solid. And most of them didn't need any massive overhauls when it came time to make Ultimate. But you get what I'm saying? These studios work smarter. They don't settle for re-releasing the same game every year or tearing down the foundation and rebuilding it every 3 years. So that's why these games seem so impressive. Because to a lot of people, they haven't played Larian games. They haven't experienced these mechanics before. So it feels like it comes out of nowhere. I can't disagree with this one more. Whenever a game disrupts the industry and delights players beyond expectations, it absolutely raises industry and genre standards regardless of the why and how. Well said. We should celebrate landmark titles like this. Greed often breeds complacency, and once the profits start rolling in, you really see people's true nature. Do they want to do as little work as possible for the maximum amount of money? Do they still have the same passion? Does a guy with 1 million subs still have the same passion for his craft as a guy with 1,000? You know what I mean? Larian serves as a very good example to other developers, I would say. This is a great thread about why using a...
Good reminder to subscribe to me because I'm just 100 away from 1k. I would really appreciate your support, and yeah, let's keep going.
Singular game to set expectations for everyone developing titles in a genre isn't useful and is instead foolhardy. This is one of those statements that 5 years from now is going to be looked back on as really fucking stupid. It's going to be looked back on as those people when cars were first coming out. They were like, cars aren't going to replace horses. That's foolhardy. People that cling to the old ways when something objectively better comes along, right? You could probably say the same thing about Mario 64 when that came out and revolutionized 3D games and platformers. I'm sure there was a bunch of people back then saying, well, Mario 64 is an anomaly. You can't expect other studios to be able to accomplish this. You can't apply this standard to other platformers. It's not fair.
That's not fair at all.
Here's the thing, right? Wouldn't a company or a person genuinely passionate about their craft want to compete with Baldur's Gate? Competition breeds improvement. It creates better products and we all win in the end. Complacency seems to be what some of these devs are advocating for, or at the very least admitting they work for a studio that doesn't prioritize making good products as much as they should. I get what they're trying to say though, right? Don't expect every quarterback to be as good as Tom Brady, but every quarterback should try to be as good as Tom Brady. I don't know a single game dev who has conveyed this sentiment about BG3. Instead, I've heard devs ask folks not to use the great things achieved by this team as a weapon to use against other devs. Now, this is the actual argument I think some of them are trying to present, right? Remember how obnoxious the PlayStation fanboys would get when they compared every video game ever made to The Last of Us 2? Yeah, nobody should be doing that with Baldur's Gate 3. The one or two devs they were quoting were talking about how you shouldn't be expecting every RPG studio to be making games on the scale of BG3 because not every studio has the time, effort, or manpower. Yes, but some studios do have the time and manpower. They just don't put in the effort. Nobody is saying Johnny Game Developer and his 2 college dorm roommates should make a 100-hour masterpiece RPG as their first game. Nobody's saying that. I don't think people are saying that BG3 is the new standard. but rather it should raise everybody else's standards, because a lot of other developers are really fucking down in the ground, man. CD Projekt Red, Cyberpunk, Fallout 76, Bethesda. This is why Starfield has such high expectations behind it, and why it will be such a disappointment if that game turns out to be a glitchy, bug-ridden disaster.
I think it will be glitchy and bug-ridden, because it's Bethesda we're talking about. This is basically like Fallout in space, and I don't know, man. Don't pre-purchase it. Wait for the reviews, wait for people actually playing it, and see if it's a mistake or not.
So many of these other companies have the exact same tools and resources at their disposal at Larian. They just make terrible products. So yeah, this is what AAA studios should strive to achieve. And it's fine if they don't. But if they try, then they'll probably make a good RPG. Cyberpunk is a prime example of why everyone's standards should be higher. It's a wake-up call for a lot of these other developers, I hope. Larian has had such an underdog story that like it's so cathartic to see them succeed, because 10 years ago they were raising funds for Divinity Original Sin through a Kickstarter program. This is a studio that risked bankruptcy in the name of quality. So at the end of the day, I think a lot of gamers have also woken up when they see what we've been missing for a long time, or at least what has become so rare in the industry, a game released by a studio that has no intentions of selling you something beyond that initial purchase. A game that works and is complete at launch. Baldur's Gate 3 is just an amazing game, and we should all be celebrating it. It is the prince who was promised, and hopefully it sends shockwaves across the industry. Should we compare every new RPG that comes out to Baldur's Gate 3? Probably not. Well, let's hope every new RPG in the AAA space tries to be as good, and that those companies try to be as pro-consumer as Larian. But thank you all for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like if you did. And
go subscribe to the Ackman. He did the content. I just reacted to it. And yeah, I guess that's it. I would really appreciate your support as well. And I guess see you next time. Wafer out.